Hello, I'm Ron Fox for Get Woodworking, and we're going to carry on talking about routers and some of the things you can do with them. Here we are. Now, little bit of a twist if necessary to, that one didn't need it, but these were the ones I clamped. That's quite a reasonable demonstration of why you don't want to use too much double-sided tape. You'll have a job removing straight edge from workpiece. Now if you wish, it doesn't matter, but you could, if you like, take a bit of abrasive and just clean the corners. You'll certainly want to clean any whiskers off it, but when you look at that, that is a cleaner, straighter, more accurate edge than I could have cut with a saw and a rasp or a file or anything else. The bearing on the top of the cutter runs against the straight edge, and the cutter itself trims exactly to the line of the straight edge. It's one of the most useful cutters in the workshop, and it's absolutely ideal for doing these fairly basic cuts, but cuts which have to be accurate if you're making a jig or a template. So there is the basis of our jig for setting a 3-inch butt hinge. But if I go back to the ready-made one, I made this one to be adjustable by having a slot which was counter-slotted, through which I could put a screw or a bolt or whatever, so I could move this across in relation to the batten. So the question then is, how do we cut the slots and counter-slot them? Well, it all starts with the straight edges again. Let's go back a step. Before we start making our jig, if we know that we're going to want to slot and counter slot it, we can do something else with our straight edges, and I'll show you what we can do. Here is another piece of MDF, 9mm thick, and I'm going to cut a slot in it. And when I've done that, I've drawn this so that the slot is 20mm wide. It's going to be the width of your guide bush. Now, every router, nearly every router anyway, comes with a guide bush. If you buy a big 1/2-inch heavy-duty router, it tends to have a 30mm guide bush with it, because that's the size you use when you're doing big trade jobs like kitchen worktop mitering, door lock fitting, stair housings and so on. This particular router that I've just been using, the DeWalt 621, comes with a 24mm guide bush as standard. I've got a Trend T5 which comes with a 20mm guide bush as standard. So what I've done is drawn this slot to be 20mm wide. And all it's going to look like when it's finished is this. It's going to have a piece of batten glued to it. This one happens to be 17mm wide, but you make it to be a snug fit for your guide bush. Or if you've already got a number of guide bushes, you can decide what size is most convenient for what you want to do. I've chosen 20mm for this one because that's the one that comes with the Trend T5. So what we've got here then is an accurate rectangle. That's got to be a good clean straight edge. Well, if all else fails, we know how we can get an absolutely clean square edge with that. We draw it, rough cut it, use our straight edge and our template trim cutter. So we'll assume we've got a nice straight edge there. We put pencil lines approximately in the middle at right angles. Draw the first one. As this is a 20mm, or will be a 20mm slot, we draw the second pencil line at least 20mm across. We scribble down there to indicate that's the bit that we're going to rough cut out, and we take it away with whatever saw we've got. Scroll saw, a bandsaw, jigsaw, handsaw, whatever. Just hack the middle out, leaving all those pencil lines visible to put the straight edges on. Here I am, back from the bandsaw, having rough cut the slot that I had drawn on that board in the first stage of this job. Now what we're going to do, exactly what we did just now with the straight edges to cut that out, only this time we're going to cut that out. We are going to tape our straight edges on the pencil line, on the other side, a little bit at the end to fill it in, and we're going to have a 20mm slot there, which is going to be a snug fit for the 20mm guide bush, and you'll see why we're doing that in a moment. So next step, straight edge, double-sided tape and a knife, and we're going to put the tape on the straight edges and press down onto the pencil line. It's not the easiest stuff to use, double-sided tape. The thicker it is, the better, not only because the tape holds better, but because the backing is usually that much thicker, so you've got more chance of peeling it off easily. So here we go. First straight edge on. Well, now here we are, we're doing exactly the same with this piece of MDF as I did with the little bit for the hinge jig. I have taped these straight edges exactly on the pencil lines, and I filled in the end with a little bit of the same thickness MDF. We're going to mount that on a couple of the other straight edges just to give us clearance underneath for the length of the cutter. Then I'm going to run the cutter up here. Bearing will run against that straight edge, across the end, back down, clockwise direction to preserve the correct direction of cut, and that will cut that slot absolutely cleanly to exactly the size we want.